Hi everyone, I'm Kurt. I'm your president, Kurt Schatzl. I'm going to talk about legislation today. It's a little boring. I'm going to try not to put people to sleep. I'm going to talk about how bills happen, how legislation occurs, but what the process is like, the different branches of government. And again, you know, it's going to seem like one of those history classes in junior high, but I'm going to try and keep it interesting. I'm going to talk about how people get in trouble with their animals. It really doesn't have much to do with whether you're keeping things illegal or not. You can get in trouble with your animal just by doing really dumb stuff with your animal. So to begin, I'm going to talk about how a bill becomes a law. And just like in junior high, I have handouts. So no, there won't be a test. So this is Congress. This is the United States Congress. This is federal stuff. In a typical year, more than 5,000 bills are introduced in Congress, but only about 150 of them become a law. A bill is something that gets run through the legislature of Congress. It either starts in the House. You guys can, I guess we'll start with Kevin. You can go around the room with those. A bill can start in the House or in the Senate. The bill starts in the Senate, it gets an S in front of it, and then it has a number attached to it, and it moves through the various. Usually, that diagram will tell you that it goes to both houses at once. That's usually not the case. It's usually either the House or the Senate that starts the movement of a bill, and the other it follows the various committees in that House or Senate, and then moves to the other branch of government to get amended and voted on through the committees. There's committees, there's subcommittees. Let's see. Bills can be proposed by anyone. I wrote a bill. S-368 went through the Massachusetts state legislature. It was designed to eliminate some language that the state of Massachusetts had that referred to the IUCN Red List, the International Union for the Conservation of Nature. This is an international organization of scientists, and they take animals, supposedly, study them, and determine whether or not they should be placed on this list in various categories. The categories range from not evaluated, which means that they never touched them at all, but they could still be listed on the list as not evaluated, all the way up to endangered. Now, the state of Massachusetts had language previously that stated that all animals on this list, in any category, have to have permits in order to own. Even ones that were not evaluated, even ones that were listed as least concern. All these animals had to have permits. Ball pythons are on this list. They still are. Corn snakes are on this list. They still are. So according to this state legislation is different than regulation. We'll talk about regulation in a minute. According to this legislation, all these animals are illegal. My bill got killed. It got buried in committee. However, someone took notice of it. I don't know through which channels. I don't know how it worked. But there's now plain language in the plain language summary on the exemption list that states that the state does not, I forget the exact language, but it states that the state of Massachusetts does not look as closely at the IUCN Red List as a regulatory tool as it used to. They never really looked that closely at it at all anyway. But since it was legislation, state legislation, technically owning a ball python at that period in time was against the law if somebody wanted to look that hard at the list. But now that the plain language is in there, they're not looking at that in that way, shape, or form anymore. Committees. All this stuff gets talked about in committees. Bill goes to a committee, and they talk about it, they vote on it. As I was saying earlier, I got a little off track. Any citizen can propose a bill. You just need a legislator to sign to be a sponsor of it, whether it's a rep or a senator. Senator Hedlund sponsored my bill because it was done from here. It was done from the Wildlife Center's address. So he got on board and he sponsored it, and he pushed it through so that it went to a couple committees before it actually was killed. I don't know why it was killed. I have yet to receive information on it, but that's how it works. A lot of times when we see things on social media about, you know, this is being banned or that's being banned, people, and you know, they don't really do anything about it. What they do is they post on social media and they say, oh, this is terrible. We have a right to own these animals. Let me tell you something right now. No one has a right to own an animal. You can look it up in the Bill of Rights. There are the first 10 amendments. Animals are not mentioned. You have the right to own a gun. You have the right against unreasonable search and seizures. You have the right to be secure in your property. You have the right of free speech. These are rights. Owning an animal is not a right. It is a privilege. It's like driving a car. They can be taken away very easily. And it's happening as we speak. So when you see stuff like this come down about whether, even if it's on the county level or at the the state level or less often at the federal level, but that's beginning to happen now. You need to know exactly who to talk to, exactly who to email, and exactly what type of message you want to send. Sending an email to the House of Representatives of Massachusetts, that email is not going to go specifically to the people who are currently looking at this bill in front of them, whether it's something that you want to make legal, whether it's something someone wants to make legal, or whether it's something someone wants to ban. You need to know who to send it to and what committee it's in. Once you get to that committee, you can find out who the people are that you want to talk to. They usually have email lists. Here's another handout. There's 535 members of Congress. This is federal. There are 100 senators and 435 reps. Does this matter? Not at all. I'll tell you why. Because it's only a certain number of these people in a certain committee that are going to want to hear what you say about the bill they're considering, whether it moves through that committee to another committee or onto the president, where he can either veto it or sign it. At Congress, at the federal level. Another handout. Thank you. Anybody know who their representative is? There are 9. No hands? Nothing. Okay, well, you can find out. Because I'm telling you who it is. Anybody know who our 2 senators are in Congress? Actually, we have 2. They're both Democrats. Ed Markey and Elizabeth Warren. Those are our senators. That's kind of important to know. It's important to know if you need to act on something. It's not important to know if you're going to work or you're buying a coffee. But if you're looking to stop something or to make something happen at the federal level, those are the 2 individuals that you might want to have to talk to if they happen to be sitting on the committees where your piece of action is sitting, your legislation or your bill. Massachusetts has 40 senators. We have 160 representatives. That's at the state level. And again, this handout will tell you, if you need to know, you can go to these websites. You can find who your senator is in Congress, your rep in Congress. You can find out who your senator is and your rep in the state of Massachusetts. And search by location, type in your zip code. This tells you how to get that information. You can get it really quick. Thank God for the internet. I belong to a reptile response action group on Facebook. And when people see legislation rolled down, there was something recently, I'm trying to think. It was about a county ban on boas and pythons. And it was, what's the word, a town council. So it was in Oklahoma. I went to Oklahoma Town Council, got all the email addresses of all the people involved. There were, I think, 13 email addresses. Ganged them all up in a message, wrote my message saying wrote things about it, saying about how, I poked holes in it. It's silly because these animals aren't harmful, dogs are much more harmful, blah, blah, blah. Then I sent the email off. So, and I'm from Massachusetts. Does it matter? Yeah, it matters, because legislation is a numbers game. When you're trying to get things done, it matters. It doesn't matter if 1 person or 2 people do it. 30, 40. The word overwhelming needs to be a part of everyone's vocabulary when it comes to legislation. It can't just be me. It can't just be USARC. It can't just be PJAC, Pet Industry Joint Advisory Council. It's got to be more people than that. Otherwise, this is what happens. You have federal legislation that says you can't move Burmese pythons across state lines. You can't move reticulated pythons. There's talk about how that's going to be overturned, and they're probably right, because there's precedent that says animals that exist in the country that are listed as injurious wildlife that are already in the country can be moved across state lines. The precedent was set back in the 70s. So that's probably going to be overturned. No new animals may be imported, but animals that exist in the country, if someone's breeding their, I don't know, donut-flavored reticulated python in Georgia, they probably will be able to ship that animal to you in New Hampshire or wherever it might be legal. Or ticks aren't legal in Massachusetts. I'm working on that. But that's going to be overturned because there's a precedent that dictates otherwise. It's already in law. So this tells you how to find your senators, your reps. What else we got? More about sending an email to members addressed